Hello, it's me, the Geeky Libertarian. Welcome to the next episode of 15-Minute Game Show Reviews. First off, I want to apologize for the long delay. I actually planned to make this video back in January, but I just finished it today. Well, that's because life gets in the way. What can you do? Also, when I made my first video in August of 2014, I originally called it 10-Minute Game Show Reviews, although the video itself ran for 15 minutes total. The second video I made was closer to 20 minutes, so I decided a name change was in order. But one thing that won't change, I'll discuss a brief history of the show, including the people involved, gameplay, give the show a grade, and talk about how I'd revive it if I was given the chance. With that all in mind, let's get down to business.
Tonight on America's biggest bargain sale, we're offering a Nissan 300ZX valued at $23,794 for $530. Cash and prizes worth over $100,000 for $750. Two of the incredible bargains on Sale of the Century.
This is by far one of the best game shows from the 1980s and one of the best game shows of all time. However, the show actually dates back to 1969 and ran for just 4 years, and unfortunately, no video of that version exists due to network practices regarding videotape. In 1980, Australian TV mogul Rage Grundy acquired the rights to Sale of the Century, and it became one of the longest-running game shows in the land down under. In fact, in 1982, due to the success of the Australian version, Grundy decided to bring the show back to the United States. The new Sale of the Century debuted on NBC on January 3rd, 1983, and ran until March 24th, 1989. But the show is so successful that its syndicated nightly version of the show debuted on January 7th, 1985, and ran for over a year and a half until September of 1986. The host was Jim Perry. A native of Camden, New Jersey, Jim was a staple on both American and Canadian television for over 30 years. He began hosting game shows in Canada in 1965 with the series Fractured Phrases. In 1967, he first hosted the Miss Canada pageant, and he did so until 1990. In 1972, he became the host of the CTV game show Headline Hunters, which he helmed for 9 years. In 1974, he became the announcer of the CTV game show Definition, a hangman-style game that actually predates Wheel of Fortune. After a few weeks of announcing, Jim became the host and would remain in that spot until Definition ended in 1989, making it Canada's longest-running game show. In his native country, Jim became the original host of the Mark Goodson-Bill Todman creation Card Sharks, which ran on NBC from 1978 to 1981 and was rerun on Game Show Network for many years since it launched in 1994 and can now be seen on the classic game show digital subchannel Buzzer. After Jim retired from television in 1990, Jim wrote 2 self-awareness books and appeared in a few infomercials, and he even hosted a pilot for a lottery game show in 1994 and that was not picked up, called Cash Tornado, part of which can now be seen on Wink Martindale's YouTube channel. The show's first hostess was Sally Julian, who only lasted 2 months due to her bubbliness. She was then replaced by Lee Menning, who was also a dealer on Las Vegas Gambit, and later appeared on the short-lived NBC game show Your Number's Up, starring the late Nipsey Russell. In December of 1984, Menning left the show and was replaced by former Miss USA Summer Bartholomew, and she remained with the show until its end in 1989. The first announcer on Sale of the Century was Jay Stewart. A native of Indiana, Jay is best remembered for being Monty Hall's longtime assistant on Let's Make a Deal. Jay was also the announcer of Tic-Tac-Dough, The Joker's Wild, Bullseye, and was the original announcer on Sale's sister show on NBC, Scrabble. His final announcing job was on the short-lived game show Blackout, when he filled in for an ill Johnny Gilbert for its final 2 weeks on the air in 1988. Jay retired in that year due to a long bout with depression, and sadly he committed suicide in 1989. The second announcer was Don Morrow, a Connecticut native who has been doing voiceover work for more than 60 years. A short resume of his work includes The Ed Sullivan Show, The Jackie Gleason Show, Masquerade Party, The GE College Bowl, Gunsmoke, Ozzie and Harriet, Now You See It, The Challengers, and in 1997 he did advertisements for the blockbuster movie Titanic. Now let's move on to gameplay. The format was pretty much the same throughout its runs on both NBC and in syndication, with some changes peppered here or there, which I'll address when I get to them. 3 contestants competed, one of which was almost always a returning champion. Contestants were spotted with $20 to start the game. Jim would then ask a general knowledge question. If a contestant buzzed in with the correct answer, they won $5. If they answered incorrectly, they lost $5. And unlike other game shows, only one contestant was allowed to answer a question. After about 5 or 6 questions, an instant bargain was offered. The player in the lead at that point would have the chance to buy a bargain price prize. Here's an example.
John, listen up to this. Sharp's state-of-the-art hi-fi component system featuring an auto-reverse linear tracking stereo turntable furnished by Sharp. This great system is normally priced at $900 and today on Sale of the Century, it's yours for only $12.
The player would have to buzz in if they wanted to buy the bargain. Sometimes Jim would either lower the price of the bargain or add a cash bonus in an effort to entice the player to buy it. If they chose to buy it, the prize was theirs to keep regardless of the outcome of the game. If not, their score would remain unchanged. If there was a tie between 2 or more players, then an auction was held and the first player to hit their buzzer won the bargain. Also beginning in May of 1984, a sales prize was sometimes offered with the instant bargain, which was a cash bonus ranging anywhere from $300 to $1,200. However, the sales prize wasn't always used on every show and was only revealed if a contestant chose to buy or pass on the prize. 3 instant bargains were played during the show. In 1986, the third instant bargain was replaced with instant cash. The player in the lead, or the winner of the auction, if tied, was offered a chance to win a cash jackpot, though it would cost them their entire lead over the second place player. The player then chose one of the 3 boxes and kept whatever was inside. 2 of the boxes had $100, while the third box had a jackpot starting at $1,000, going up by that much each day until it was won. After the instant bargain or instant cash, 3 more questions were asked, and then the fame game was played. Jim would read a who am I type question with more information being revealed as the question went on. If a player buzzed in and answered incorrectly, their score was not affected, but they were locked out for the rest of the question. The first player to buzz in with the correct answer then picked one of the 9 spaces off the fame game board. Behind the famous faces, later numbers, were cash, prizes, or money cards, which added to the player's score. Originally, there was just one money card worth $25. But beginning in 1984, a $10 money card was added for the first fame game, a $15 money card for the second, and the $25 wasn't added until the third and final fame game. In late 1985 or early 1986, the fame game became Press Your Luck. The player then stopped the light bouncing around the board by hitting their buzzer, with the money cards being revealed for that respective round. After the third fame game, originally 3 more questions were asked, but since the game was pretty much determined by then, this was replaced in 1984 with the speed round, where Jim asked as many questions as he could in 60 seconds. When time was up, whoever had the lead won the game. If there was a tie, Jim would ask one final question, with the right answer winning the game and a wrong answer losing it. The losing contestants won whatever cash or prizes they acquired along the way, plus their score in cash. The champion would then play one of 3 different bonus games. First, let's start with the original and best bonus round, where contestants would use their winnings to go shopping for fabulous prizes. The amounts changed over time, and they varied on both the daytime and nighttime shows. To keep things simple, I'll be using the amounts that they had on the nighttime show. 6 prizes were featured, culminating in a brand new car. The first prize was usually worth about $3,000 on the nighttime show, and sold for $85, or if it was the champion's first victory, Jim would sell it to them for the amount they won in the main game. A contestant retired as champion when they bought a prize. However, they could instead bank their winnings and try to win another game, and if they did that and acquired enough money, they could then move up to the next prize level. The prizes were changed every 5 shows, and if a champion won on a Friday show, Jim would remind them of this if they chose to come back on Monday. Eventually, if they reached $530, they could buy the car. If they reached $640, they could buy all the prizes on the stage. If they reached $750, they could buy all the prizes in addition to a cash jackpot starting at $50,000 and going up by $1,000 each show until it was claimed. This would result in the champion retiring with over $100,000 in winnings. In October of 1984, on the daytime show, and in November of 1985 on the nighttime show, the shopping round was replaced with the winner's board. Unlike before, where a contestant would need to keep winning and building their bank to buy a specific prize, The contestants simply had to win the game and had a fair chance at winning one of 10 different prizes. There were 7 different prizes on the board in addition to the car, as well as $3,000 and $10,000 in cash. The board was played a lot like Concentration, as they tried to match the prizes on a 20-space board. Behind each number was a prize, and the first prize matched was what the player won and was theirs to keep, even if they were defeated on the next show. There were also 2 instant win cards on the board, and when a player found one of them, they won the next prize that they matched. This was needed in order to win the car and the $10,000. Finally, after all 10 prizes were cleared from the board, the contestant had 2 choices. Either retire and take all the prizes, which added up to $60,000, or risk them and play one final game. If they lost that game, they lost all the prizes from the winner's board and kept only their front game winnings. But if they won, they kept all their prizes and won an additional $50,000. Amazingly, despite the odds, no contestant who went for the $50,000 lost their final game. Though one contestant, future actor and game show host Mark DiCarlo, was the closest to do so. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but you can see his final game on YouTube, and it's actually pretty exciting. The winner's board was the show's most successful bonus game, but in late December 1987, the bonus round was changed once again and became the winner's big money game, which many game show fans regard as the final nail in the coffin that led to Sale's demise. The winner of the match automatically won a prize to go with their winnings, and then played the winner's big money game for a cash bonus. The contestant was given a choice of 3 envelopes, red, yellow, or blue. Each envelope contained a series of 6-word puzzles that led to a famous person, place, or thing. Originally, the contestant had to solve 5 puzzles in 25 seconds, but this was later changed to 4 in 20 seconds. The clock started when the first word of a puzzle was revealed, and it only stopped when the contestant hit the plunger to give an answer. They could pass if they didn't know it, and if there was time left, they could come back to it. If a contestant gave one incorrect answer, there was no penalty, but a second mistake ended the game. If the player was successful, they won $5,000 for their first game, and regardless of whether they won it or not, they played for $6,000 on their second try, $7,000 on their third, and so on, with the 6th try played for $10,000. On their 7th try, they played for the car. If they didn't win the car, the champion retired. Otherwise, they came back for an 8th and final game, and if they made it to the end, they played the winner's big money game one last time for $50,000. Only 2 contestants made it that far, while just one, Rainy White, won it. The most cash a contestant could win under this format was $95,000. Unfortunately, no one ever did. Well, that's the basic gameplay structure for Sale of the Century. Now we grade it. There isn't much to say about this show that hasn't been said before. At its heart, Sale of the Century was a quiz show, albeit nowhere near as challenging as something like Jeopardy or Tic-Tac-Toe. But it also required strategy when it came to buying an instant bargain, especially if you were a champion going for the big win. On the one hand, you could buy a prize that's guaranteed, but it may be difficult to recoup the amount you spent to buy it, and that could really become a factor if the contestant was going for the entire lot or the $50,000 bonus. For the most part, Sale was 1 part knowledge and 1 part luck, but it was all parts exciting. The show also benefited from one of the best hosts in Jim Perry. Jim was a true gentleman who could make each game exciting and was able to maintain a rapport between him and the contestants. His style, salesmanship, and ability to lead made him one of the greatest game show hosts in what was the last golden era of network game shows. The only downside here was the changes made to the bonus game. The shopping round was by far the best. The winner's board wasn't too bad, and it was always exciting to see a contestant go for that all-or-nothing final game with $50,000 on the line. The winner's big money game, however, was the weakest of the 3, in my opinion. Even though I remember it as a kid when I watched the reruns of the show on USA back in the 90s, I later learned it was partly the reason for Sale's demise. It was a well-thought-of game, but it did feel out of place on this show. And the biggest issue I had with it was that it made Sale seem kind of cheap. And Sale of the Century was not a cheap show by any means. But you know what, despite this caveat, Sale of the Century was still one of the best game shows of all time. Great game, great host, and a chance to win life-changing amounts of cash and prizes. Sale of the Century truly lived up to its name, and it gets a solid A. Now it's the part of the show where I talk about how I'd revive it if I had the chance, and the less said about the 2007 abomination known as Temptation, the better. The new version of Sale of the Century would actually mirror the 2005 Australian revival, which coincidentally was also called Temptation, but it would still be called Sale of the Century. The game would have 3 speed rounds throughout the game, 2 20-second rounds and the final speed round at the end of the game was 60 seconds. There would be 2 instant bargains, and in place of instant cash, a chance to open what was called the vault that could contain anywhere from $1 to $10,000 and would cost a player either a flat $15 or their lead over the second place player, whatever was less. The Fame game would be played the same as before, with increasing money cards added in subsequent rounds and new bonus cards that could either help or hinder the player. The bonus game would be a combination of the shopping round and, oddly enough, the winner's big money game, which would be used to increase the champion's cash jackpot should they make it that far. The jackpot would start at $100,000 and would increase by a certain amount from $5,000 to $10,000, and if the contestant won the big money game, that amount would be doubled. If they made it to the bonus game 7 shows in a row, they would then pick the word puzzle envelope as before, and the envelope would contain $10,000, $20,000, or $30,000, which would again be doubled and added to their final jackpot if won, which means that the cash jackpot could be worth up to $250,000. As for the host, I would choose former Entertainment Tonight correspondent Bob Goen. Goen has game show hosting experience under his belt, most notably as the last host of the daytime Wheel of Fortune from 1989 till its final cancellation in 1991. The co-host would be former Deal or No Deal model Layla Milani, and the announcer could again be Don Morrow, or if he's not available, former Family Feud announcer Burton Richardson. Well, that's another game show review all wrapped up. I'll be back next month with another review of a classic game show. And by next month, I mean at the end of this month. I promise. Until then, I'm the Geeky Libertarian. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at LibertyGeek83. As Dennis Miller would say, I am out of here.
It up for Sale of the Century. First of all, on a personal note, this is my wife, June, and if it were not for her and 30 years, I wouldn't be standing here today. And if it were not for all of these people behind us and all of the people up in the booth, we would not have had 6 1/4 years of Sale of the Century, where we have given away over $8.5 million, and I know of instances where we've changed people's lives for the better. I hope for you that we have given you some joy and some pleasure and entertainment, and somewhere along the line, possibly a little bit of knowledge that is added to your day. A lot of you have been very supportive of us for a long time. It has been almost 2,000 episodes of Sale of the Century, and we leave this show with great pride, a show that has been a wonderful show, and all of these people that we're going to see their faces, Summer and all the on-camera people and all the people behind, it's because of them that it has been the great joy that it has. I thank you. I bless you. Goodbye, my friends.
Deep hurt.